All right, Dan. This is my like fourth time trying to film this, and I keep fucking up because I keep getting nervous. My first attempt was actually pretty good, but I realized I missed one critical step to showing you how to do everything that you need to do, and I decided to redo it, and then now I've had to redo this like four times already. Anyway, um, so I got After Effects pulled up already. Um, I'll show you some things how I'll show you. I'll talk about the software first. So here's our project panel list. This is going to be your bread and butter. This is where you're going to import all your stuff and where your file explorer basically where you're going to have all your files, all your documents, all your layers, everything is going to be here, and you can access that here. All your compositions, everything. So we'll mess with that in a little bit. This is your effects control. You're probably not gonna mess with that because I don't think you're gonna be messing with effects for a little bit. But I'll show you how to use one effect to make your videos look a little bit nicer. I think. Um, Down here, you've got the folder. I've never used this interpret footage. I used to use that back in the day, but nowadays everything comes perfect. So you don't really need this to interpret footage. But this little folder here, this create a new folder, is very useful. You can click that and it'll create a new folder. If you click out of it, it'll have it unnamed, named untitled one. If you want to change that, you can hit enter while you click on it. So like have it selected, click enter, hit enter on your keyboard, and then you can change the name. So let's say we change it to footage. All right, now I'm going to put all my footage there. Um, then I want to create another folder. Let's change it to audio. So now I'm going to have all my audio there. We'll put here compositions. So we'll have all our compositions there. So we've got three folders. This is just kind of uh, general guideline to keeping things organized because it does help when you have a lot of layers in and you're editing a big project or you're just working in general. Like you want to keep things organized because it just helps, man. Um, the next tab over, the next little thing over is the create composition um, little tab thing, little button. You can click this to create a new composition, or you could click this new composition from footage, and you could drag in your footage there. So actually, we'll import some footage. The way you import footage is you go to File, Import. You can go to File, and then you can import, from here. Let's say I want to import this video. If this, actually we'll go to Desktop and we'll import the video that I did of what's it called? There we go. This one. So, well, Control Z. Anytime you fuck up or you don't know what you messed up or like you did something that you don't know what you did, Control Z is your best friend. So that will undo. You can Control Z back like 100 fucking times. After Effects saves all that. So you Control Z, that's undo. That's a good shortcut to remember. Control Z. Anyway, file import, file, and we import this one here. Import, click import. You don't have to mess with any other settings. You can click the create composition button here, checkbox here, if you want to create a composition out of this. But we're gonna have that off, and we're just gonna import it. And you'll see that it went into the audio, what's it called, folder. So you're just gonna click on that, drag it to the actual footage folder, and then you can click on the little button, the little drop down here, and now it's in the footage folder. Um, Next thing, let's say I let's say I wanted to do it quicker, like because you really you want to do things as quickly as possible. Let's be honest. We want to get stuff done as quickly as possible. So we've got our what's called here, our project panel here. If I have a folder open with that file that I want to import, which I almost always do, let's say you've got your clips folder and you're gonna make your video from that. Let's say, where is it? Random files. Okay. Uh, and then I've got my footage here. I can click on it, drag it into there, and then it'll go into the project panel list. Now it's in the wrong folder, so I'm gonna drag that into the right folder there, into the footage folder, and now I have it there. Um, Here is the bit depth of the project. Just for all reference sake, always have this at either 16 or 32. All that means is that the color depth of the video is going to be at a higher, richer color depth, basically. If you have it at 8 bits per channel, it's not going to be as precise. So like I can show you how it looks, but basically like your colors are going to be more fluid and more blended at higher bit depths. So you want to just basically have it at 16 or 32. Sometimes if you have it at 32, you'd think the highest would be the best, but sometimes if you have it at 32 bits per channel, certain effects don't work. So, if you ever get to making more elaborate compositions and stuff and use certain effects that don't work at 32 bits per channel, you got to remember to change that to 16. But yeah, 16 or higher generally, unless you're trying to make something that looks like really old or whatever. Um, 8 bits per channel is just kind of outdated nowadays. So we've got our footage here. The reason I use this, oh, and by the way, you've got all the names of stuff here, like all the name of the name of the thing, and you can click that and it'll organize it based on like alphabetical order, the type, the size of the file, the frame rate, the out, how long the video is, and all this other stuff, where the file is, the resolution of it, all this information in the projects panel here. And you can fuck with this by clicking on, you hover over it, and these little parallel lines come up. You can click, and then you can make it wider, shorter. I typically have it about this wide because I don't need to see all that, but it does help when you have a lot of stuff here that you need to look through. But for now, we only have one footage. What I like to do is I like to drag and drop the footage into the new composition thing here. And I've always done it this way because back in the day when I got started, there was no way to bring it in through here. Like if you brought it in through here, like it would just, if I remember correctly, like it wouldn't do anything. Like you couldn't just drag it in there and have it make a composition like that. I'm used to bringing it in this way, but if you wanted to, you could bring it in here and it'll make a new composition out of the footage, or you could click on that and make a new composition and try to match it up with however you want to do it. But generally, I'll bring it in to the little picture board here, and I'll drag it. I'll click on it and drag it there, and then release, and that'll make my composition. This is your first composition. So next thing you want to do, it'll name it the name of the file that you dropped it in there. So it's already named. It makes it the same exact frame rate as your stuff. Same resolution, and we'll fix all that. But here you've got the video, and if you want to preview that, you can hit spacebar.
I'm calling on all Spartans.
And it should replay. It should just keep replaying over and over again. If for example, I'm replaying this and it's like really choppy, right? Like it's because I got a lot of layers and it's just choppy and it doesn't play back in real time. I can go to this drop down here. It's the resolution, the resolution factor window, and you can click on this and you can set it to auto, and it'll set it to the best resolution based on your system or whatever. But I typically go to third, and I work in third composition, and I'll just hit spacebar, and you really can't. It's hard to tell. Like it's not hard to tell, but it's not that big of a difference. So like third resolution, you're working at 1/3 of the quality that the video was shot in. But if you ever want to see what it really looks like, you can click on that again, go to full, and you see like how much sharper it is. You can go to half, you can go to quarter. Custom here, you can set it to whatever you want, I guess. I've never used that. Um, so let's just set it to third there. If you wanna like move around in the screen here, you can hit the space bar and hold the space bar and click, and you can move the composition around in space, right? Let go of the space bar. If I click and move stuff, now it'll move the actual footage inside of the composition around, and that's messing with the position parameter. So if I want to move within the window, I hit the space bar, I hold it, and that brings up this little hand, and then I click and drag, and I can move around the window. That's if I have any layers on this side, for example. Like, let's say I had a layer here, and I was over here. I'd hit the space bar, drag over here, let go of the space bar, click it, and drag it over, and bring it back over here. But since I don't have any layers, I'm just showing you basically. But click on the actual footage and you can move it around. You're messing with the position there, X and Y. Uh, what's called right now it's out of position, and also the aspect ratio is off. The resolution's off. So we got to change that. The way you do that is you go to the composition settings. So you come here on top of these numbers here. That's like your time as time passes. So like every frame is like, if you've got 30 frames per second, it's, every frame there's going to be 30 frames per second, right? So I think this is 24. So you see it says 23 there, and I'm cycling through the frames by hitting the page up and page down on my keyboard. So that's page up and page down to go back and forth through frame by frame. This is really good to know if you got to get a big detail, and you got to get in there, like you got to be very precise. So this is 24 frames per second. So when you reach 23, it'll switch to 1 second there, you see. Anyway, my point was that on top of there is the Calling on All Spartans composition. The name of the composition, you want to right click that, and you want to go to composition settings. So that'll bring up the composition window. You never got to see this because we dragged it in there through the footage, and that created the composition all by itself automatically. And that made it the same length as the video. So if your video is a certain length, you can, it's a good way to keep the length the exact length that you need it to be. But we'll go over everything that you need to know. So you're gonna want to go. Let's say we're not gonna use a preset, but you could go to preset, and you could go to social media portrait HD, 1080 by 1920, 30 FPS. That will make it the exact size that you need it to be. But we're gonna do it manually because it's good to know the aspect ratio that you're gonna be using. The resolution that you need to use. So the resolution that you're going to be using is you're going to be making a vertical video, right? So then that means your height needs to be higher than your width. Right now the width is higher than the height, which is why it's horizontal. So we need to make the height 1920. Hit enter. All right, now the height is 1920. The problem is that the width is, I think it's like 1280 or something like that. So we need to go back into the project, the composition settings, and right click on the little tab here, right click, go to composition settings, and then you see the width is at 1280, change that to 1080 and hit enter, and there you go. Now the composition is at the right resolution. Again, we hit enter too soon, so we got to go back into the composition window and settings, click on that. If you want to make sure that you don't mess with the aspect ratio of the actual composition, just check that box on. So if by some mistake or whatever you end up changing the height and width, it still keeps the same proportions. So it'll still render out, and it'll still render out, and when you render out, it will look how it needs to look when you upload it. The next thing is pixel aspect ratio. You're going to keep that at square pixels. You don't have to mess with that. The frame rate, you can click inside there, and then you could put whatever frame rate you want. Typically, if your footage is 60 FPS, you could do up to 60 FPS, up to 60 frames per second. If I would, I would, I would recommend just doing 30. So you just write that in there, or you could hit on the drop down and you could click on 30. If you want to do 60 FPS, you could do right here. If you're wondering why they do these like little like weird numbers here, I really don't know. I'm actually curious as to why. I should probably Google it, but I don't know why they do 29.97 or 59.94. It's such a weird fucking resolution I mean, frame rate to use as opposed to just a flat 60. Um, it might be because it gives it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not really sure why they would do that. You want everything kind of like stable. So like I would go with 60 or 30. You could go with 25 or 24. Um, resolution, it doesn't matter because this is what you're going to be seeing the video at when you're previewing it. That doesn't matter. Start time code doesn't matter. I guess it's based on the actual frame rate. So the time code is based on a frame rate. It says base 60. We have 60 FPS, so we're gonna switch that to 30. Duration. This is gonna be what you want to mess with. Um, I typically like to have a longer duration than I have video, just in case for whatever reason. So this video is 5 seconds long. We're gonna make it double that. We're gonna hit 1 and 0 right there. That's the seconds here. So this is like milliseconds or whatever. This is seconds, and then this is minutes. So we're gonna do 10 seconds. And then the background color, you could just leave that at black because you can. I mean, you could make that whatever you want, really, whatever your preference is. But I typically leave it at black because that's what it defaults to when you render out and there's no background. Um, hit OK, and then we've got our settings all perfect, pretty much. So we're gonna check that again. Right click, click on that, on composition settings. Make sure the width is 1080, the height is 1920, the pixels are square. We did the frame rate is at 50, so we messed up there. It's a good thing to check like that because you see stuff like that. 30 FPS, switch that to 30. Make sure the resolution is at whatever you want it to be, whatever you're going to be previewing the project at. The duration is 10. Background color is black, and yeah, we're good to go. And then let's name our composition. Let's name the composition Danchi Project 1, and then hit enter, and now our composition is ready. The next thing I want to do is I want to go into the footage folder where the Danchi Project 1 composition has been made into, and drag this into the composition folder so that it's in the right folder, just because I want to keep things organized. Um, the the minus and plus keys on your keyboard will zoom in and out of the timeline. So if I want to, you see how if I go here it goes further. If I go back it goes. How do I get this scroll bar to take up the entire space? Now I could go here and zoom out. You could do that manually and zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. Do that with your mouse, or you could hit the keys on your keyboard, plus and minus, and that will zoom in and out. And I use that a lot more than this. I never use this. Nobody ever uses this, I think. Plus and minus, pretty much, that'll do it for you. Um, that'll zoom in and out. So now I'm seeing the entire composition. Um, we got our video here. First thing I want to do is mess with the scale um, and the position. So scale and position, you can hit S on your keyboard. That'll bring up the scale parameter. You can mess with that. It has two options here. I'm guessing one is height and one is width. Usually when you mess with one, it messes with the other, unless you click on this disable proportions, and then it will only do one. And you can mess with that manually. But you typically want to keep it at the same proportion. So we'll keep that checked on. We got the scale there, and then we also want to mess with the position. So we're going to hit P, and we've got the position. P for position, S for scale, P for position. That'll bring up those options. There's a way for you to have both up there. I forget what the shortcuts were for that, but you could just click on this little drop down and that'll bring up the transform options. You've got the scale and the position right there for you to mess with, and other parameters as well. But typically, the scale and position parameter are going to be the ones that you mess with the most, and also the opacity as well. The opacity is the transparency. So if I mess with this, you'll see it'll fade in and out from black to color. But we'll mess with the position, the scale, and also the opacity. Next thing I want to show you is this eye icon. If I turn this on, it toggles the visibility of the layer on and off. So on and off. If I click this, I think. Oh, I thought if you clicked on that, it turned it all off. But anyway, here you've got the audio. You can toggle that on and off. Other things you can do is you can click on the drop down here, hit audio, and when you bring up the audio, you can hold down shift and click, and you could drag it all the way to the left. It's negative 192 decibels, is pretty much dead quiet, doesn't make any audio sound. And I think the highest it goes up to is 20. Okay, so it goes up to 12 decibels. And then if you want to bring up the waveform, you can click on that, and that'll show the little waveform of the audio. That's basically the audio waveform that it creates, that you can look at to kind of gauge like when there's certain sync points or anything like that. The audio level, you can keep at 0 or whatever, depending on how high the audio is and how much you want it to be heard. You can bring that up, by the way, by hitting L, and that'll bring up the audio level, the decibels. And then if you hit LL, that'll bring L twice in a row fast. It'll bring up the waveform. Besides that, we got, okay, next thing is we want to align it. So let's say this align tab, this align panel is not here. Let's close the align panel. I'm like, okay, I got to get this in the center of the fucking window, because if I put it here, it's going to look like shit. If I put it here, it's going to look like shit. And if I kind of mess with it and try to get it right in the center, it's not going to look perfect, and it's going to look off, and my videos are not going to be consistent. So one way to do it would be to go to the title action safe here, this little clicky thing. You click that, and this drop down comes up. Then you could click title action safe. This will bring up kind of this reticule looking thing, almost like a basically reticule looking thing. You can click on the footage, and that's how you select it. And then you can try and match up the little center thing to the little reticule here, and try to position it in the exact space there. It's not exact. That's the issue, and that's the whole point that I'm trying to get across here. If I click on it and I click on the corner piece here to scale it down, if I don't hold shift and I scale it down, it's going to be kind of uniformly off. It's going to be kind of square. It's going to be kind of off in proportions, because it's, you can, if you click it like that, you can mess with the scale in different ways. So if I let go of that and I hit Control Z, it'll fix it. So let's say you mess around with it and you're like, oh shit, I want to get that back to normal. If you forget that Control Z is the undo, you can go to Edit, Undo here, Control Z, hit Control Z on your keyboard, or you can go to this little arrow thing, click that, go to the transform options here, click Reset, and that'll reset all of them. Besides that, you see that we got our footage right in the center. Okay, let's click on this corner piece, hold shift while we click on it, and drag inwards, and that will basically scale it down and proportionally down, so it doesn't mess with the proportions. I noticed that it's a little bit off to the right, so I'm going to click it and move it a little bit to the left. And now we've got it kind of in the center. Now, there's an easier way to do this besides doing it this way. This is not an ideal way to do it. Sometimes I do things this way just because it's like humanistic to kind of have like that kind of like little margin of errors and stuff, and I like to eyeball things. But really, the best way to do this is to click on this, go to, and we had the align tab, the align panel open, but we don't have it anymore. So we have to bring it up. We're going to go to window up on top of here. We're going to go to workspace and we're going to go to reset default to save layout. We could do that. That brings up the align panel. Or if it's closed, and let's say you did reset the default work window and they changed the default work window and it doesn't show the align panel, you could just go to workspace, I mean window, and go to the click align here, and that will bring it up right there. Also, let's say you don't want this here, and this is a pretty commonly used thing. Let's say you want this in a more accessible area where you can see it all the time, and you could click on it, and it's just easier for you to kind of see. You can click on it and drag it, and you could put it in any area here. If you put it in the center here, it's gonna make a tab for it. But if you put it down here, it'll make a little tab on the bottom of it, and then you can access it here. So now I'm gonna select my footage. I'm gonna click on align horizontally, and you're gonna see it like. Actually, I'm gonna move it like randomly so that you see how this works. I'm gonna go to align horizontally. This will bring it to the center horizontally, and then I'm gonna go to align vertically, and this will bring it to the center vertically. And now it's perfectly in the center. Now you'll see that it's not scaled perfectly. It's not scaled perfectly because you'd have to like do some math and stuff. It really is probably 85% or something like that. It's the exact number or whatever, or 84% or something. But I typically like to leave a little bit of area on the outside, just a small like amount of pixels, because I don't like having it exact. Because sometimes it doesn't, like, the pixels bleed through and it doesn't look exactly like how I want it to. So I go a little bit over, so I keep it that way. So you want to go like, I think 84% is the, well, it's actually 84.5 probably. That's like exactly on the money with the frame with the actual pixels, and it's off by like 1 pixel or whatever. Anyway, um, that's like on the money basically. I just like to go a little bit over just so I can guarantee that it will look right and nobody's gonna notice. Nobody's gonna be like, oh, you should have been at 84% or 84.4%. Um, anyway, okay, so again, we're scrolling outwards to scroll out, scrolling inwards with the mouse to scroll in to zoom in, spacebar to drag around the composition window, um, and then release the spacebar to have the selection tool. You can hit V to bring up the selection tool. If you, for some reason, you have this tool enabled or any of these tools enabled, and you're like, oh man, like what did I do? Control Z, hit V, that'll bring up the selection tool. Or if you have that selected, you can hit the selection tool here. You can bring it up to this toolbar and hit the selection tool there. So the fix here is to hit align horizontally, align vertically, and that's dead in the center. Now the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create some titles. Actually, we're gonna create a background. So we're gonna right click and we're gonna go to new. So that's right click within this window, because I think if you, well, actually you can right click in the timeline window too. Yes, if you right click in here, you can't do it. So right click in either of these windows, and we're gonna go to new, and we're gonna go to solid. Solid is basically like we're gonna make a background. So the name of the solid is gonna be BG for background. You gotta make sure that the width and the height is the same as your composition by hitting the make comp size button. That'll make it the same composition size. If it's for some reason off, you'll see it like this, and you'll hit make comp, and the numbers will fix themselves. Units is going to be pixels, square pixels. That's fine. You can hit lock aspect ratio just to make sure that it doesn't like get fucked with or whatever. The color is going to be white. You can change it to whatever color you want if you really wanted to. Let's say I wanted to do the same color as this bar here. I can hit this little eyedrop thing and go here, and it'll copy the color that is. So we're gonna make it that color. Actually, hit OK, and you see that the background, which is supposed to be the background, we're supposed to see the footage on top of it, is over the footage. So the way that we can see that and we can change that is by clicking on it, selecting it, and bringing it under the footage. The footage is on top of it. It goes in order, so it's just layers. The topmost layer is going to be the most visible layer. The downmost layer is going to be the least visible. Um, you could also bring the bottom one up, or the or the or the top one to the bottom. Okay, so we've got our footage, we've got our background, and now we're gonna make a some text. So we're gonna hit Control T for text. Or if you don't want to, if you want to do it a little bit simpler way, although it's better to get used to using the shortcuts. Control T again. If you hover over this, it'll tell you Control T. You can click on the text, on this little text icon. Click on that, and then you could click on anywhere, and then you could type in whatever you want. So let's say we're gonna name this um, calling all Spartans, right? So you name it whatever, um, and then you'll see that it's right here, and I can move it around by selecting it. I have it selected here in the timeline panel, and I can move it around. Um, the problem I have is that it's too big, and it's getting cut off at the edges here, and also it's not centered. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna align it. Actually, I have this on this side, so I'm gonna bring it back on this side. I'm gonna align it I'm gonna align it horizontally because I don't want to align it vertically because that'll bring it up to the center here. I want to align it horizontally, so that'll bring it to the center there. Then I'll click on one of these little parameter scale parameter doohickeys, hit Shift, hold down Shift, and scale it inwards. So bring it inwards, and then till it's basically around this line here, and that's where I want to have my title. So we've got our first title there. Um, and if you ever want to preview this, you can bring the little playhead here. You can click on that and you can drag it. But if you wanna start it here at the beginning, you bring it to the beginning, hit the space bar, and it'll play.
I'm calling on all Spartans.
Okay, so it just played, and we've got our video working. Um, we've got our title here. Next thing is we're gonna duplicate that title so that we can make another title on the top. And let's say it's a Killtastrophe or whatever. So we're gonna hit Control D, and it's really useful to know this. Control D to duplicate. You might even be you might be able to duplicate through, like, if you want to do it. If you don't want to, if it's hard to remember Control D, just click on it, select it, and I think you can go to Edit and hit Duplicate, but it shows you there, Control D. So you duplicate it, and now there's two layers on top of each other, but you can't see the other layer. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on it, we're going to hold down Shift, and we're going to drag it upwards. And we're going to try to match the same position, the same distance away from the actual footage that this is from the footage from the top, and this will be from the bottom. I try to eyeball it. You could do the math on there if you wanted to, but I'm trying to do things practically, so I'm trying to do things as fast as possible. I don't think anybody's ever gonna call you out on it being a couple pixels off. So that looks about right to me. We're gonna click on this text here by selecting it. You can select it that way, or you can select it in the timeline. However, sometimes you might have something selected and you might not be able to select the text. It's like I have the background selected and I can't select the text, which is annoying because I want to select the text. And sometimes when you click around, this window will open up and you'll be like, what the hell? What am I doing here? Like, what's going on? The fix to this is to close out of it. So you close out of that. This will have your composition project window panel open here. And then you want to basically click on the layer on your timeline. Sometimes, if this is not enabled, this little doohickey here, toggle mask and shape path visibility, you won't see these parameter doohickey. And it might just be for masks that works for, but sometimes, like, you can't see it because you don't have that turned on. So you have to turn that on, and vis it'll give you the visibility for that, and you'll be able to mess with it and mess with the parameters there. Because if you don't have that on, you won't be able to see it. You won't be able to mess with them. Um, so have that always have that on, unless you need to have it off for whatever reason. Sometimes you need to mess with the scale, and the the mask path is the same size as the scale, so you have to turn this off so that you don't see the mask, so that you can fuck with the scale. But yeah, sometimes this thing makes it hard for you to, like, having it on or off can mean the difference between actually getting to mess with a certain parameter or not. Um, we're gonna mess with this, so we're gonna click on that. We're gonna double click on there, and that'll highlight the text, and then we can change the text. So we can change it to catastrophe, catastrophe, and then let's go a step further. Let's duplicate it again. Control D, click on it, bring it up, bring the other layer that we just created up, and double click that text. You can double click it in here, or double click it in the actual, what's it called, and highlight it all, and then you'll type in let's type in Danchi. All right, and let's say we wanted to mess with the color of it. Let's say we wanted the word Danchi, your name, to be white so it stands out. You want to click on this fill under the text, under the well, actually, this is under properties here. Actually, you want to bring up, uh, you can do it here, but you want to bring up the characters property. So you want to go to window, and you want to click on character, and that will bring up the character properties window. Because this is another properties tab, which is good to have, and it gives you a lot of options. But I typically, if I want to control the text, I want to do it through the characters panel. So here we've got, here we can choose the kind of text we have. Let's say we want to do something fancy. Go with that one. You can change the boldness. This one doesn't have that option. Here you can change the the fill color. So let's say we want to make it white. Click that, make it white. Let's say I want to make the inside, I don't know, red. Um, or actually, that's for the stroke. So if you want to make the stroke a certain color, you can change. It has that black dot in the center, that black square dot in the center. That'll mess with the stroke, and you can mess with the stroke here. So if I make that at 15, it'll make the stroke, of Danchi there, thicker and in red. If I for whatever reason I want to flip flop those colors, you can click on swap fill and stroke, and that'll flip flop the colors. Actually, that looks a lot nicer. Um, this is to remove the stroke, so you can remove that. You can also remove that, and it'll just take the stroke. Um, but I actually want to make the stroke white, and then we have the text there. Um, Here they just got the black and white just because it's the most commonly used parameters. Um, there's a lot of parameters here. You can mess with them. This is the size of the text. So if we're going to make it bigger, we make it 115. You can click on there and hit 120, 100. You can mess with the size. You can also mess with the height, like, but since it's only one text, it's not gonna move it up and down. But if I were to put like something under it, like an A, if I were to click that, I have that selected, and I click on that, you see how it moves the A up and down. That's what that does. I'm hitting Control Z there, and then here here this is for the spacing of the text. So if you want to have it more spaced, that looks nice actually. That looks pretty nice. We'll have it kind of being like right there. Bring it down right there, and there's some other parameters you can mess with. Like this is stroke. You can mess with kind of like the different ways that the stroke kind of fills in there. All different ways that you can mess with it. All these other options here. the way you learn is just by like just fucking with shit and then hitting Control Z. Like just see what that does and then hit Control Z. See what this does and hit Control Z. See what that does, hit Control Z. You know, it's a easy way to kind of learn what things do. Um, Other things. So we've got the text, we've got the titles. Trying to think. I showed you how to zoom into the timeline, plus and minus. The next thing is setting the timeline to the right length. So remember we set this to double the length of the actual video. Um, we want to set that to the correct length. So we're gonna drag this. We're gonna click on the playhead here, drag it, hold Shift, and that'll snap it to the edge of this last thing. When in doubt, hold Shift when you're doing stuff, and it will snap things into certain places. And that's a kind of like a little trick there. Click on this thing, work area end. Click it, drag it, hold Shift, and it'll snap it into place. Make sure that when you snap it into place, it isn't one frame off. Because if I zoom in, you see it's one frame off here. So the actual clip actually ends, and when the video ends, it's gonna have one frame where it just flashes like, you know, to the color. So you want to make sure this is at least on the footage here when it ends. Okay, so we've got the right length of the timeline here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna right click on the gray here. So not here, not here, not here, but here on this gray area. We're gonna right click on there and we're gonna hit trim comp to work area. We're not gonna hit any of these other ones because I almost never use them. I just use trim comp to work area. That's why I set my comp bigger than it needs to be, and then I trim it to the right size. All right, so my After Effects crashed and my computer crashed, so I have to reopen everything and redo everything. We're gonna do it really quick and gonna go through it really fast. So I bring in my clips. Let's see here. Random files. Calling all Spartans. So this is our footage. Bring it in there. Make a new composition. Adjust the parameters here of the composition settings. Go into custom. Go into portrait. Make sure it's 30. Make sure we set this to 10. Hit enter. And okay, the size of the composition is off. We gotta align it vertically and horizontally. All right, it's right in the center. We're gonna click on it, hit the shift and drag inwards to reposition that and rescale that to the proper proportions. Then make sure that also that we're a little bit off on the pixels there at the edge. I just like that as a safeguard. You could technically like scale it perfectly, like 84.5 or whatever. But next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna right click. We're gonna make a solid. We're gonna make it this color, eyedropper, same height and proportions there. Make comp size. Hit OK. All right, we got that. Bring that below the layer, so now it's on top. That's on top, and you can see that this is the background. Rename it. Hit enter. Hit enter to rename the layer. Hit BG. Perfect. And now we've got our layer there in our video. Hit Control T. Click anywhere. Type in Danchi. All right, and then we're gonna go to the align. Align vertically, horizontally. It's in the center, so we want to bring that above the footage. Hit, click on it, drag, and hold Shift. Then we're going to duplicate that. Click it, drag it, hold Shift, and bring it down. Make sure that the text from here, this distance between the text and the footage is also the same distance between the text and the footage on the bottom here. It just has to look around the same. You could do the math if you want, but I'm not going to do that if you want it to be perfect. Then we're going to rename this. We're going to double click it. Sorry, we have two layers selected, so if we double click, it doesn't do anything. We have to select one layer. So Danchi number 2 text, we're going to select that and name that Catastrophe. catastrophe, or actually we name it calling all Spartans. All right, and it's too big, so we have to mess with that. Here's the spacing. We're gonna bring that closer together. We're gonna bring the text, make the text smaller, and we got it about, I like round numbers, 55. You see the distance between the text and the top title and the bottom title is off, so we're gonna hold shift and click that, bring that upwards. Right there, perfect. And then we've got our video pretty much. The only thing is we need to change the work area. So we need to go to this end here, click on this thing, drag it in, make sure that we zoom in, make sure it's not here, because otherwise there's this blank space. Make sure it's not here, but it's actually here, and it ends right where there's still footage here on this layer, so that when it ends there's still footage, so it doesn't go blank. Zoom back out, minus key, right click on this gray area, not here, but on this gray bar, right click, hit trim to comp to work area. Alright, we got it, and now we can play it, and it's playing. Okay, now we're gonna render it out, but I don't want it to be named this, so I'm gonna rename the composition. We're gonna name it Danchi. So again, that's right click, composition settings, composition name, highlight that, Danchi, enter. Make sure the bit rate is at 32 or 16, not 8, 32 or 16. Got everything else set up here. There's nothing else that I want to show other, like this is pretty basic. In order to render this, let's say I want to render this. Okay, so we go to composition, we go up here to composition, we go to add to render queue, click that. You're not going to mess with anything in the render settings here. It's going to say best settings, just keep that the same. Output module, you're going to click on that. You're going to click on, you're not going to change anything here except format options, and you're going to go to target bitrate bitrate mbps, bring that all the way to the highest. It's going to be 50 if you're doing 1080 by 1920. So it's going to be 50. You don't have to mess with any other thing here. Hit OK. Sometimes the resize might be on. You might have to mess with the resize too. But if it's not on, you should be fine. You should be rendering at the right size. You don't have to crop anything. So like this is fine. If you wanted to, you could mess with the crop of the video. I wouldn't do that because it's going to throw off your resolution, or it's going to throw off the proportions of it and stuff. Anyway, for final audio output, I usually like to turn this on just because sometimes the audio doesn't get turned on when you have it on auto, so I put it on. Other things, format options, you want to go to bitrate settings of the audio and put it at 320. Anything else here is good. Hit OK, and then you've got that set up. You could render in Adobe Media Encoder, and that might be your best bet. I don't use it because it crashes my computer, so I have to render it out of After Effects. It takes a little bit longer because I have to wait for the video to render in After Effects before I can make more videos. You know, it would be better if I had Adobe Media Encoder, which is why I'm making a new computer. But output to, make sure you click on this and you set the output to desktop. I always render to desktop. It's easiest way to render. Make sure your file is named what you want it to be named. Make sure that this file is H.264, which is MP4. This is saved into the desktop, and you can hit save, and then you can hit render here, this button here. You can hit render, and it will start rendering. And that's pretty much it. Sorry the video's so long, bro, but I just wanted to cover a lot of bases here. Make sure that if you fall into any kind of issues or problems that you're kind of covered. Because there's a lot of like little nuances to the software. But if you have any other questions that I can help with, just let me know, and go from there. Later.